Hello, Inform Scotland followers and friends. It's really nice to be speaking to you again. I didn't actually realise how long it had been since I did one of these updates. So, anyway, sorry it's taking me this long. We've been quite busy, and then I also had a wee bit of a holiday because I felt like I was losing my mind a little bit. So I've put up on the website informscotland.uk data for the 26th of May to the 1st of June. The headline image on this is not great. We have seen a huge rise in prevalence according to the ONS in the week the 16th to 22nd of May compared to the 9th to 15th. I have some questions about that which we will discuss in a minute. So I've put in all the tables with the data from these 7 days. So graph 1 shows a rise in cases, which we all know about. The rise seems to be accelerating. This is not good news. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Now, I would love to say, well, it's just because we're doing so many more tests, but that's not true, because positivity is rising. So we're now sitting at an average of 2.5%. This is still way below the Office for National, the WHO's epidemic level, which is 5%, and that's in the community, not from testing. But nevertheless, it is reaching up, and I am finding this very surprising because it's summertime and we know that coronaviruses are suppressed in the summer. We see it everywhere around the world. So certainly last summer, we saw a flattening, and that was maintained throughout the summer. So I don't really understand why it's rising like this, especially given the fact that we have so many people vaccinated. The number of newly tested individuals, graph 3, is also rising very quickly. This is also very depressing. This is an indication that we have a lot more community testing going on. This is not good news for getting cases down. We're finding all these positives, but it's just not translating into an increase in hospitalisations. And so I do wonder, what is the point? I keep saying this, I've said it before in this video, I'll say it again. I don't understand why we care about cases if they're not translating into sick or dying patients. Hospital occupancy, you can see there has been a very slight increase over the last couple of weeks, but it's really very minimal, and the number of patients with COVID is very small compared to the number of delayed discharges. Those are people in hospital with possibly with a positive COVID test. The delayed discharges are people who can't leave the hospital because there's nowhere for them to go. And we know from clinicians that we're in touch with that there's quite a lot of the COVID patients are delayed. Obviously, there is something going on with hospital occupancy too. In graph 5, I have put this positivity graph. So what I've done is split up the positives by day of the week. Now, 2 weeks ago, this is week 22, but I'm counting a week goes from Monday to Sunday. So we've just started a new week. But week 19, we saw an extraordinarily low range of positivity throughout the week, where we're getting a really reproducible positivity rate day on day. However, in week 21, last week, we see this enormous variation. Now, we haven't seen a variation like that since week 9. And there's also been a bit of a change where Sunday was the day with the highest positive percentage. Whereas normally it's Monday, or it seems to have changed up a wee bit. It's quite strange. And the reason that I'm following this is because I think it tells you something about the testing. I'm not sure what it tells you, but it tells you something. Something has changed last week compared to previous weeks, for sure. I've also, because we've had this rise in cases and there's all this talk about, whether places should move up a level or down a level, and there was talk about Edinburgh last week. This is very tiresome, but I've split up the positives into 4 graphs. So we've got Greater Glasgow and Clyde, Lanarkshire and Ayrshire and Arran, and you can see there that there has been a significant increase in positive tests in Glasgow, but they seem to be flattening off, and I think they probably will fall now. I hope so anyway. Lothian, Tayside and Grampian, you can see there's absolutely nothing happening in Tayside or Grampian, but there has been a rise in Lothian, and it looks like it's still going up. Fife, Forth Valley are totally flat. Dumfries and Galloway and the Highlands and Borders, nothing is happening. Graph 10, you can see that there's this all looks very standard. This testing seems to have settled down, and we're doing a lot of NHS testing. Vaccinations, you can see second doses are catching up with first doses, so that implies that we have not as many people taking up their first doses as we move into the younger age groups. You can't really see these graphs very well. I need to try and make them a bit bigger for you because that's quite annoying. The first doses are just kind of limping along, and second doses have had a wee bit of a recovery, but now they're falling off again. I've split up hospital occupancy. You can see something has definitely been going on in Glasgow, and we now actually have more than 5 patients in ITU in Glasgow. So that's one region in the country that has more than 4 patients in it. That's all. So that's a change. And prevalence is up. So we've been seeing this very steady decline in prevalence from the ONS, but now it's going back up. I am finding this very, very strange. It's summertime, and we have now half, my friends walking down the street, half our population has been vaccinated now. Why is prevalence increasing? And why is hospital occupancy increasing when we've got so many people vaccinated? We're hearing about variants, and even people who've been vaccinated are catching the variants. This is all quite concerning, frankly. Why are vaccinated people susceptible to catching variants? We just don't know. Are they susceptible to catching variants? We're not sure. But these are all things that really should be of some concern to the health authorities. We should not be seeing a rise at this stage in the epidemic. The epidemic is over. Like, the pandemic was declared over at some point this year, wasn't it? We're not at anything like pandemic levels. And so there is a bit of a concern here. Why are we seeing more cases? Does it matter if people aren't really getting sick? Do we need to obsess about it? I would say probably not. But we have to know why, if there are mechanisms that are making this happen. And I was at a very interesting meeting yesterday with international doctors and journalists and scientists. I was very privileged to be able to sit in on that meeting, and it was quite interesting what they were saying about both vaccine reactions that they're seeing in the hospitals and apparently increased susceptibility following vaccination. We saw that in the winter. After Christmas time, I was very surprised to see COVID cases going up and deaths going up again, because we were vaccinating the most vulnerable, and we vaccinated a lot of vulnerable people very quickly. At the same time, we saw a rise in COVID cases in all sorts of countries following vaccination. Following the vaccination programmes rolling out. Now, I'm not saying that there is a connection, but I'm saying that there is a very strong correlation between vaccine rollout and increased COVID cases. And I'm wondering if that's what we're seeing now as we're moving into younger age groups for whatever reason, we're seeing a rise in COVID cases again. I don't know, maybe there's no connection, but I am really puzzled given the amount of talk that there is about COVID on the news, that nobody is posing these questions. I know that we're blaming the unvaccinated, but that doesn't really make any sense to me. If vaccinated people reduce transmission, having this number of vaccinated people should be reducing transmission. Lots of love to you all. Stay sane, stay strong, stay tuned. Bye.